Playboi Carti, Trippie Redd, Lil Durk, Lil Baby. The amount of rappers that have canceled or had to postpone their tours recently just because of a lack of ticket sales is very concerning about the industry and just rap in general. Is rap falling off? Probably not, but it seems like rap fans aren't as willing to go to shows, and even someone like Carti with a super dedicated fan base doesn't have enough pull to even get enough people to sell out concerts in Los Angeles. And while I think the venues are really the issue here, it is kind of a bad thing that Carti, someone with one of the most dedicated fan bases in all of hip hop, can't even sell out an arena in Los Angeles. And while Carti has definitely been selling out every single floor section, it seems like he doesn't have the pull to get people to actually sit in seats when he's touring. And I totally understand people don't really want to sit in seats while they're watching Carti, but clearly it's affected Carti's thing and they're expecting to sell out at least these seats. So that's why he's postponed it and likely is going to at least drop some new music before to drum up some hype for this new tour. And I think this is mainly one of the biggest problems, is that artists won't really release new albums and they'll just go touring. Like Lil Baby, he just went touring after he dropped his album like over a year ago and he had to cancel a bunch of dates. Lil Durk did actually drop an album before, but I feel like they totally overstated the hype for Lil Durk. It clearly seems like Lil Durk isn't that big of an artist himself, and while Lil Durk is a big artist, I think the streaming numbers really overinflate how much he can sell out, and it doesn't seem like he has that same culty fan base like someone like Carti. And there has been some really successful tours like Kendrick Lamar, like Drake recently, and like Travis Scott, all of which have sold out. But it clearly seems like only certain rappers with these super dedicated fan bases and super dedicated audiences that want to listen to their music in person, and they'll pay money to sit in any seat in the arena. Tyler, the Creator, also sold out a bunch of shows, but it seems like these new rappers, these Cartis, these basically anyone who blows up on TikTok and has this audience of the rap caviar type people, these are the artists who aren't selling enough to actually get people in the stadium. And Lil Baby, I feel like, has to be the biggest person here, because I feel like Lil Baby is the streaming number king. It's Only Me is still selling like 10,000 plus copies every week, and he's not getting enough people to fill out an 18,000 person arena. It's crazy to me, because it just shows that rap and the streaming numbers don't equate to people coming out and showing out for you. And it seems like you really have to cultivate that fan base. It looks like Uzi, though, does have a lot more people coming out for his tours, and it looks like he might be a little bit more popular than Carti, or at least people want to go to his tour more than Carti, because both his floor and most of his regular seats are all sold out. And I just want to say props to Uzi, because he is able to sell that out, and he didn't go for only an arena tour like a lot of these other people did. Trippie Redd had to cancel basically his whole tour because he wasn't selling any copies. Also, he dropped new music and only sold 30,000 copies. You compare that to someone like Lil Durk, and Lil Durk was almost selling 100,000 copies. You think Trippie Redd, someone who sold 30,000 copies, could really get even close to Lil Durk's sales for a tour? No, he can't. And it's like all these people are overestimating that because of these Spotify numbers. These Spotify numbers are really overinflating these rappers' egos, where they need to be in these really big venues to actually justify their egos and to justify their sales. And I think that's where people are getting it wrong. It's not about these rappers that can't sell seats. First off, they can sell seats, just not in this big of areas. And also, they're super overcharging prices. Like, if you want people to come, yeah, if you're Drake, people will come. If you're Travis Scott, people will come. You look at like the Astroworld Festival and all that, people will come. And Kendrick Lamar's tour, these are all rappers with super established fan bases, and they've been popular for multiple years. It's all these new rappers who have come onto the scene, and they have these really big streaming numbers that are like comparable, even way bigger than Tyler, the Creator's. And you're like, oh, yeah, maybe I can sell as much as Tyler, the Creator can, but you don't have that same dedicated fan base that's going to click that same way. You look at someone like Lil Yachty, he's going in much smaller venues, even though he's been doing really well recently, because he knows that's all he can sell. And I just think that's the problem, because all these rappers think they can sell out these big arenas, and I'm assuming their teams do as well, because they see these numbers, but they can't. Like I said, Uzi was a good example of this. Some of his are in a little bit smaller areas, that 8,000 versus the 18,000, but I mean, he's selling out all those venues, and that's kind of the problem in America. There's not really that good middle ground where you're not at 18,000 in an arena, you're at like 10,000. I feel like that's where all these rappers need to go. They need to lower their prices, go into a little bit smaller venues. I feel like get a little bit like better as rappers, because a lot of these people don't have that same stage presence, and they don't spend a lot of money on their actual arena tours. You look at someone like Drake or Kendrick Lamar, and they spend a ton of money on their actual tours. You look at people like the Baby. Like the Baby instantly fell off and was not selling out anything once his like whole scandal went through. So I don't know. I just think there's no way these rappers need to be at these super large venues. And if they keep doing this, they're just going to have to keep canceling or postponing these things until they actually get enough hype to sell them out. And that's why I think Carti is the worst offender of this, because he's dropped no new music, because he hasn't had any hype with him around him recently. There is no reason to go to a Carti show. I already went to the King Vamp tour. I don't need to go to another of one of Carti's playing Whole Lotta Red. He needs to release new music to justify me going to this new thing. And like, yeah, people will always go on the floor for Carti, but no one else wants to go to the show if Carti's not releasing new music. You don't want to go just see him play King Vamp again or any of those songs, Whole Lotta Red, another time, because who cares? You can listen to Whole Lotta Red yourself, or you could have gone to one of the tours a year ago if you were that big of a Carti fan. And I just think in general, TikTok has really inflated a lot of these rappers' egos and just inflated the streaming numbers to such a large amount. Like Carti right now has 38 million monthly listeners. I know a lot of that is because of the weekend stuff, but like if you look at the monthly listeners, you'd be like, oh my God, Carti would easily sell out these things. He's higher than Uzi, and Uzi's selling them out. But it's like, that's not really how it works. Monthly listeners is such a bad way of looking at things. And it's just hard to see how many rappers can really do that. Like J. Cole can do it, maybe A$AP Rocky. There's a lot of these rappers that could do it, but you can't really see them do it because they don't go on tour a lot. And then a lot of these other rappers think they can do it, and you realize that they can't do it at all. So I don't know. It's a really weird thing because Carti has this super hard going for him fan base, but if he's not releasing new music, which I think a lot of rappers realize they need to release new music to drum up the hype for their new albums. And I just think in the last year, hip hop has kind of been dying in general, or rap in general has been dying. I mean, the biggest album of the year before Utopia was like Lil Durk's album, and clearly that wasn't selling out enough for him to actually go on tour. So I don't know. I just think hip hop has been dying, and when you're not releasing music, and I feel like everything that has been released, is doing well, but it's just going there and then people don't care about it 2 weeks later, especially something like Trippie Redd. Like Trippie Redd sold 30,000 units and no one cared about his album even when it did drop. And I just think that's why hip hop in general can be dying. You see Taylor Swift, a lot of these other artists, Beyonce, having the highest grossing tours of all time. And you look at the top of hip hop, these people that have been around for a while, and they're all having these super high grossing tours and selling out a ton of tickets. Like people like Kanye could be doing tours and selling out a ton of places. People like Travis Scott and Drake are doing that. So it's just really disappointing that this new generation of hip hop, even the people that I feel like are really carrying that generation, like Carti and Uzi, Uzi is still selling out some places, but some places aren't fully sold out. And Carti had to postpone his tour because of a lack of ticket sales. So it's just like these younger generation of artists for hip hop, they need to be carrying their load, and they need to stop just not releasing music. They really need to keep the hype up and keep that cult fan base, which I feel like Carti did really well, but it's just hard to do it. And I hope Carti can eventually release music and get enough hype to sell out this new tour, because if he does, I think hip hop will really be on a good path forward. But if not, I mean, this is the leader of the new generation with some of the most dedicated fan base. And if he isn't able to sell out a lot of these tours, I don't know who can. So I don't know. I think Carti is a great artist, but if he can't, who else can in the younger generation?